why did my dad and his family and millions of other people legally migrate to the United States, emigrate to the United States, come here? Because the rules apply to everybody. But you just have to figure it out.
Yeah.
You see, if you figure it out, you win.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Overstock Dixie. You can go like and follow their Instagram. There's new items that pop up on there every day, multiple times a day. Anything from furniture to tools, electronics, pretty much anything you're looking for. Hey guys, welcome back to the Derick Leg Podcast. We are in the vault again, episode 72. I've got a guest on today that I just kind of got talking to in my retail store, and it really just sparked my interest. And I kind of leaned over to him and I said, I've got this small town podcast. I'd wonder if you'd want to come on and just share some of your knowledge. But I had a great conversation with him, so I'm hoping we can get a lot out of this. To be honest, it's probably a sit down with the notepad, take notes kind of podcast. So I want to introduce my guest today. This is Arif Halaby. How's it going?
I'm well, thanks. Thanks for having me, Derick.
Yeah, this is cool. It's cool to have someone on that's so familiar with all this, right?
Yeah, it's always news, always a little nervous, but ultimately, I have a LA radio station, radio show, just terrestrial radio, regular radio. Been on, I want to say 4 stations. Occasionally host a national show, so it's kind of nice, 150 stations for a buddy of mine. But really, the bottom line, I think that radio offers, podcasts today offer that very few other mediums do. Is it is open to everybody.
Yeah.
And it gives that ability for ideas and conversations that aren't just approved by the organizations that used to just approve what we would hear or say. And so I love the idea. It's been 17 years now on the radio for me, probably 3,000 plus shows. The conversations about what we do, why we do it is very important because it doesn't exist. Walter Cronkite, I'll give you a good example. I happen to have a conversation with Walter Cronkite. Sounds very weird, as if I'm, what do they call it when they say virtue signaling or, a humble brag? That's what it was.
Name dropping.
Name dropping, yeah. The only reason I bring it up, and I thought of it just now, is because it was during a book signing thing that he had, and it was just, maybe a 5-minute conversation. But he's very liberal in his book. I mean, he talks about how far left he is, really. I mean, almost socialist. And I said, Mr. Cronkite, reading your book, I realized you were very liberal hearing you speak. You're very liberal in your ideas, but that never seemed to come across. He looked at me. I know he's been asked it before because it's not something he hides. And he said, young man, the way I could say it, I don't want to mess it up. He said, young man, my job was to deliver facts, not my opinion. Here, people want to hear my opinion. He said, today's newscasters on both sides of the aisle think it's about their opinion, and it isn't. It's about the facts. Even if the facts hurt your side of the conversation, you're supposed to share them. So I thought that was fascinating because although it's so basic, it's what a lot of the professionals today forget about.
Yeah. No, I like that. That's what we try to do here.
Yeah.
Before we had got on, we kind of talked about with your radio show, you were middle ground for a long time.
Yeah.
And then you kind of shifted on to like what your true beliefs are.
Well, I kind of went back to the beginning. So if you will, my dad is Lebanese. That's why I have an Arabic name. My mom's a Michigan farm girl. From hello to I do was 4.5 weeks, right? They met each other, drove to California, and I grew up in Los Angeles.
Wow.
Born in Hollywood, grew up in LA up until in my 50s. Moved to the St. George area, back and forth to LA still. But ultimately, the fascination with the way my dad focused on family meant everything, meaning this. The Civil War starts in 1976. He goes to Lebanon. First of all, he sells his rental property, takes the cash, goes to Lebanon, smuggles his family out from Jordan. He goes to Jordan, into Syria, over the border into Lebanon, pays people to get in the country. Remember, Civil War is happening, Smuggles his family out. Before he could do it, he had to make sure that, wait a second, these people, give me your documents, get your passports. We don't have a passport. Well, where's your ID? Well, I don't have an ID. Why not? Well, because I don't have a birth certificate. So there's 20 people without a birth certificate because that's not what you did in the villages. You would get enough children and then everybody would go down and you'd register your kids and you just say it was cold outside. So your birthday's probably November. Okay. It was pretty hot. So it's got to be a July day. So your birthday's July. So ultimately he gets these passports. It's another story someday. It's incredible. Flees to to Jordan, waits there for 2 months now till he can get his visa. My dad has been an American citizen now for, at that time, maybe 5 years. Speaks Arabic fluently, was educated in English, so he speaks English fluently too. But every day he'd go to the consulate, which issues visas, goes to the embassy, right? Hi, everybody. Any news? Nope, nothing yet. How about now? Nope. Then one day the guy says, Mike, you've been coming here. And my dad says, why don't you just come to lunch with me? So they go to lunch. So now my dad and him are going out to lunch and dinner a couple times a week. And then one day he says, I'm going to take a vacation. I've got vacation time, my wife and I. We're going to Paris for 2 weeks. Can you fill in and issue visas for all the refugees coming from Lebanon, the civil war, which ones stay, which ones go, and also the other Jordanians and other people here that want to come to the United States? We don't know. We're going to only accept a certain amount. And my dad says, yes, I can do that. I can issue those visas. So, of course, in minutes, he's checking boxes and his family came. So I saw that. So my bedroom went from the garage, from my bedroom to the living room floor, back to my bedroom, then my parents' bedroom floor, then back to my bedroom, and then the living room floor, and then to the garage. So when I was in 8th grade, till I was 23, I lived in my garage. So my worldview, I was a good kid in school. I loved school. Everything was great.
And this is in LA.
This is in Los Angeles. Had no clue about financial anything. I mean, financial stuff was yay, we get to eat dinner. I mean, we always had food. My dad and mom always took care of that. Wasn't always filet mignon, right? We didn't have that happening. But he took care of us, and of course, many other families got them jobs. My mom would get the kids into school. They'd all kind of get started. 6 months, the kids are fluent English without any accent.
Wow.
Imagine that, right? Oh, we're so afraid we got to have these 1,600 languages in these schools. You drop them in, yeah, they get picked on, yeah, they get tough, and yeah, they learn English, and then they become millionaires, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because these kids understand life.
Yeah.
So fast forward, I say, I finished school, meet my wife. I'm going to be a Los Angeles policeman. Why? Well, I don't know. I was a lifeguard. I was a security guard. Might as well be a policeman. So I joined LAPD, did that for about 11 years, big car accident, multiple back injuries, surgeries, 3 back surgeries, 2 knee, 1 other knee. Had to retire from the police department. In the middle of that, I got scammed. And they took all my money, 3 different scams. Here I was a smart guy because I was an investor already during that time. Here I carried a gun, right? Policemen carry a gun. And they still ripped me off. So besides the shame and guilt that you feel, right? Because some of it was money that my wife had that she worked for and we lost it. I lost it. But you see, everybody has that gut instinct. Women call it what? Women's intuition, right? We say, oh, we have a gut instinct. But women have that women's intuition. My goal is for everybody to trust it. You're not always going to know exactly what's wrong, but something's wrong. The hairs stand up on the back of your neck. We all get those funny feelings. You can describe it in a lot of ways. She knew that these guys were bad guys. And I didn't, or at least I didn't want to.
Yeah.
So what did I say? I said, well, no, let's put our money with them. And so they took everything. About $150,000. I was 27, 28 years old, injured in a walker, crawling around the house, failed back surgery number 1, and we lost everything.
And I remember something else that we talked about. I just want to interject into that. I remember when you were telling me the story at the store, and there was something you didn't do that I thought was very important. So you never let your kids see you crawling around the house,
Never,
right?
Never. So many people think that the answer is welfare or, you're injured, so your kids have to see you whining and crying, right? All of us want to get sympathy.
Yeah.
But I never wanted my children to see me less than. Never. And maybe they wouldn't have, but to me, they would have.
But you can control that little part of not even
That's
letting them have that.
Yeah. I would call on the cell phone. I'd say, honey, I'm coming home. I'm really a mess. You have to put the kids upstairs, let them play in the playroom or something. So they play in the playroom. I would get out of my car and I would crawl up the driveway and almost always need a new suit because I worked for the police department as a administrator person at that time. I had a desk job as promoted, and it was a good place to be. But ultimately, I said, I can't let my kids see me this way. So I'd either crawl up and go straight to bed, or go into a bathtub, or see if I could try to loosen it up, my back or whatever. A lot of people suffer from things. I mean, this is life, right?
Right.
What I didn't understand was how you say, and it's over. I'm going to collect welfare or unemployment. Look, my dad had a job where he got laid off. And it was really his only job in his life. Other than that, he was a business owner. He had a job for a long time. Maybe I'll share that with you a little bit. And then a business owner. And when he got let go from that job, he said a couple of things. My mom, I remember, was saying, so why don't you go get unemployment? My dad said, I will never take unemployment from this country. They gave me a chance, and I will never take something for nothing. And my mom said, but you worked hard. You deserved it. He said, are you kidding me? I have a home. I am well enough to work. I will find a way to provide for the family, but I will never take anything from this family. And so many people think that, well, I put into the unemployment or disability, and everybody pretends. And so up until, well, whatever, I'll share it with you. We've been able to donate my salary, so I get a pension, right? Police department, but I donated every year, except for 2008. We couldn't financially do it because it was a crummy year for our business and everything else. But that was my goal, was to be able to help somebody somewhere, different charities, nonprofits, whatever, scholarships. We do things like that. And it was because I remember my dad saying the same thing. We will always find a way to be givers and not takers. You see, takers, there's a lot of takers. Everybody wants something.
Everyone thinks they're owed something. Yeah.
My dad goes, wait a second, you're an American. You were born in this country. Do you understand how valuable that is? Right? My dad left Lebanon when he was 17, went to West Africa, worked in the diamond business for a decade, then got in a fight with one of the military guys, and they said, oh, you have 24 hours to leave the country or else. So he went to the next country. And then he picked up the job of welding. And then the head of the Virginia Railroad happens to become a buy. And my dad spoke English, remember?
Yeah.
He's 17, 18 years old now. Or now he's 28. He's 28 now because it's been a decade. So he's in Liberia. And they said, hey, why don't you come to the United States? I'll give you a job in Virginia welding railroad ties. And my dad said, great. So he gets a ticket and flies to the United States. He never showed up for that job. Yeah. So I guess he did take something that wasn't his, was that ticket. But he stayed and met my mom 4.5 weeks. He was in the country for about 6 or 8 months before that happened, but then met my mom and was married.
Wow.
Still married, still alive, thank God. Still married today. It's 1964, 57, 58 years.
Wow.
A long time.
Did they live in LA still?
Yeah, still do. They visit, of course, a lot here. But
sure. Yeah, I've talked a little bit about what you owe the generations before you and the generations after you on here before. I like every now and then I do one that I'm just alone and I kind of ramble through some thoughts. But that's like real life right there.
It's completely real.
I mean, I'll get your opinion on it because I didn't live through that, right? What are your thoughts? Like, do you consciously think that you owe your dad?
I think I owe his legacy. Now, he's still here, thank God. He's 80 in his mid-80s now. I owe him because here's what he said. When I became a Los Angeles policeman, now, mind you, there were 6 or 8 tests that you had to take, and it was about a 6-month period of time. I was about halfway through that before I said, hey, Dad, I want to be a Los Angeles policeman. And he didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. He said, what are you talking about? I left Lebanon so there wouldn't be a war. I don't want you to die on the streets of Los Angeles. Well, he had already put a kibosh to me joining the Marine Corps. I had the recruiter come over. I was ready to join the Marines. Boy, did I not hear the end of that. So the recruiter says, it's probably not a good idea for you to join. Wait till you're 20 and come back.
Yeah.
So I had to do this kind of behind his back, even though I was 21. And ultimately, he was the most proud, yelling and screaming when I graduated. You could hear him amongst 1,000 people in the audience as the graduates went up on stage and we received our badges and our pictures and all that, diplomas. So, but at first he was very upset because he thought that is something, I didn't come here all this way, because my job was to stand on his shoulders. And he said, I stood on my dad's shoulders. My dad stood on his dad's shoulders. Your job is to stand on mine. And one day your children will stand on yours. Now, sometimes you can go this much, sometimes it's this much. But each generation is supposed to be a little bit better. But what I don't think people get is what you owe somebody who gave up almost everything to take care of you. You see, it's not until you're a parent you get it. I think most parents just parrot what they thought they were supposed to. Go to school, get a good job. Go, get a degree, go get a good job. My dad started that world, and I graduated with nearly straight A's. I mean, I was a really good student. Might not have been that hard, and my school wasn't in a great neighborhood, but it was still, I was one of a great, high 3.9, 3.8 GPA. So, okay, great. I said, Dad, I got accepted to UCLA. And I said, I need $2,000. He said, we don't have $2,000. I said, but wait a second. You told me to not do drugs and not get in trouble and stay with the right kids and finish school. What do you mean you don't have $2,000? He goes, well, we never saved for college. We don't have any money for college. I said, oh. And then I remember seeing him look bad, like he was feeling bad. I said, oh, no, Dad, I don't want to go to UCLA. I was just telling you that it's just nothing. I'm going to the community college, so don't worry about that. And plus I got a job, and I'm getting another job anyway next week, so I'm fine. He's like, oh, okay, well, if you're sure, I go, yeah. He said, we could take a second on the house.
Wow.
And I thought, wow. Because just like a week earlier, they were arguing about $20,
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I don't ever want to be a part of that. So my goal was to take care of them one day. Now, they beat paying off their house before I could do it, so I don't have that honor. But my goal was to always be the one that says, hey, if you need something, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And just the other day, yesterday, I get a call from my dad, and a friend of his who was there for him in his time of need is now suffering financially. And he says, hey, you don't have to do anything, but if you can, just a few $100s would make all the difference. Now, I know this person very well. So this person, my dad worked Lebanese, right? But he worked for Iraqi Airlines. That was the only job he really ever had. So he worked for Iraqi Airlines. Well, when Iraq invades Kuwait, Iraqi Airlines is not like American Airlines. American Airlines is owned by shareholders. Most other airlines that are named after the country are owned by the country. So that's what it was. It's a socialist economy. They own the airlines. The revenue that comes through goes to the treasury of that country. So my dad got laid off. That was August 1st. In 1990, they invaded Kuwait. August 3rd, there were 5 offices in this country, Iraqi Airways. All 5 of them were raided on the same day, Treasury Department and FBI. They confiscate everything, including my picture in the academy, right? Because they have American flags that I already graduated. And they took it. It's now U.S. government seized property. Give us a call. We'll tell you how you can get some, if maybe not, anything back. And they took all of his pension. He was a 55-year-old man, and he lost everything. See, some of you guys think that your pension matters. It is not yours. The pension belongs to the employer, not to you. So as cities around the country, I can give you Rhode Island, Detroit, Stockton, California, Mammoth Lakes, California, San Bernardino, California. How many do you want where cities, counties, states have filed or defaulted? They call it bankruptcy in your land and my land. But these are places that say, sorry, we can't pay your pension the way you thought.
Right.
Well, in his case, the entire country was gone. So now what? So instead of sitting around and asking for, unemployment or welfare or something, he just said, I'm going to go get a job. Well, no, I'm going to start a company. So he started a company. And I picked up 2 more jobs to work full time, and we did what we could to survive, because that's what you do.
Right. Well, that's what you should do. Yeah. If you have I was going to say, if you have the ability to do it, that's what you should do.
And one of his friends helped him in that time. And that's the person who's suffering now. 30 years? What is it, 1991? 1990. 40 years. What, 20? Yeah, 30 years ago. 31 now, 32. So there's a lot more I'll tell you on the backstory of who this person is. I think it'll shock you. It wouldn't be good to talk about it here, but wait till you know who these people are. I mean, it's pretty hardcore.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So you're LAPD, you get in a car accident. And I know it started a little before that. with the current stuff you're doing now?
Yeah, well, I figured I wanted to be rich, right? Like if you go to a room full of 100 people and you say, who wants to be a millionaire? Everybody goes, yeah, me, right? Everybody wants to be rich. Yeah. Who wants to work 7 days a week? Oh, wait, maybe not. 12 hours a day? Maybe not. Right? Who wants to miss your daughter's dance recital? Okay, there's 4 of you. Well, I want to be rich, but I want it to fit in my needs. You go, okay, well, let's back up. The definition of rich is completely different. Because what you think is a lot of money is not the same as me or Mr. Trump or Warren Buffett. These people who all think money rich is a different number. So what you have to ask yourself is, what is wealthy? You see, poor people have been taught to make a lot of money. That's why you go to school, you get pay raises. That's why you get bonuses. That's why everything is built down the road of pay me. Because you understand that they take more taxes out the more they pay you.
Right.
It's why minimum wage was designed to go up, because taxes and payments to the city, state, county, federal government are based on what? They're based on your salary. It's a percentage. It's not 3 cents for every dollar that you make above a certain. It's a flat number. Give me 10%. Give me 20%. Give me 5%. So, but wealth is not taxed. So fast forward, I get ripped off. I'm like, this stinks. I want to be rich. Okay, I got to figure this out. So I figured out, what do Americans touch every day? What do people touch every day? Got it. They drink water every day. They go to the bathroom every day. They eat food every day. They breathe air every day, and they touch money every day. So I went back. I said, well, 2-year-old touches a shiny gold penny, right? Whatever. 102-year-old, Social Security check and a debit card. So everybody in between is touching money every day, different forms, different ways. So I said, all right, that's the trick. Learn how money works. If I can manage money, if I can move money, if I can understand, then I might have a chance to be rich. Well, my goal wasn't to be rich. Remember, it's to be wealthy.
Right. Two different things.
I had to learn how to shift that over. And it came a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I read that book. My income triples, 9 months. All of a sudden, we're doing really well financially. And I thought, well, it could be temporary. We went through a year, just about. So then my wife and I started scholarship funds. And our scholarship funds were based on character. I don't care what you get on your grades. Right? You can always tell when poor people teach poor people. Lovely, honest, honorable, love my teachers, clients, friends. But most of them are poor. Mm-hmm. So don't let them teach you how to make money because they haven't done it yet, or at least be wealthy, right? So reading, writing, arithmetic, man, you're a genius. Geometry, I don't know it. You tell me. Got it. But to make money, to be wealthy, you have to learn from somebody that's wealthy.
Exactly.
Right? That's how you're now standing on Robert Kiyosaki's shoulders or Napoleon Hill. Right? That's Dale Carnegie. Those people, you stand on their shoulders, now you can raise it up. My mom and dad are amazing, character-driven, integrity-filled people. Wealth wasn't their thing. They were busy trying to save their family. Yeah. Oh, hurt me, right? So that's a bit more valuable. But in a time of calm, because I think bad times are coming, not just a recession. I think it's going to be here in the next 3 months. Now that the midterms are over, they're going to have some conversation about it, and they have to decide, right, to let the bull out because it's a choice, right? And once they choose, because they have to permeate, they have to drive down your perceived wealth, drive out people, and then they will take your money again. That's what happens all the time. The moment the masses start to become wealthy and understand how things work and businesses are flourishing and more people, they have to collapse them and then start all over again. So I think that's coming in the next few months. But what most people don't realize is wealth comes from an understanding of assets versus liabilities, right? For example, I wanted to buy a nice car. Most people like a nice car. Okay, well, I saved up, but not for a car. I saved up for a building so that the building created wealth and then it created income, and all the tax laws are written by the rich, not by poor people. So I said, okay, what tax laws got it? So guess who works for my nice car?
The building.
The tenants and those people, right? Not me. They don't get to drive it, but it's my car. Because rich people make the rules. They always have, right? Cleopatra on the Nile River, she made the rules to benefit herself, her friends, and her family. Napoleon, benefit himself. Fidel Castro, Mr. Socialist Communist, they didn't burn down all the homes on the Caribbean, those amazing villas. They just put his friends and family there.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, people don't think, oh, socialists equal. It's no such thing. It just goes from your pocket to my pocket. You can call it Mickey Mouse. I don't care what you call it. It's just you don't have it anymore. This guy does. So the United States isn't any different. Rich people make the rules to benefit themselves, their friends, and their family. Oh, except one little line. And it says the rules apply to everybody. Why did my dad and his family and millions of other people legally migrate to the United States, emigrate to the United States, come here? Because the rules apply to everybody. But you just have to figure it out.
Yeah.
You see, if you figure it out, you win. The reason poor people are poor isn't because they're stupid. It's not because they don't make a lot of money. It's not because they have access to information, because today everybody does.
Everyone does.
But it used to be that if I could send my kids to a special school and you couldn't, tough luck, you didn't get the rules. Go back to the fields, go back to the factory. Right? Maybe somebody would save up enough money and send one child to college. The oldest boy or the oldest girl?
Oldest boy.
All the time. Sometimes villages got together and said, the closest doctor, man, it's like 5 hours from here. So your son is pretty smart. So I'll tell you what, I want your son to go to college. We'll all pay for it. And when he's done, he comes back here and becomes a doctor. And we now have our own doctor. It's called a scholarship. Today, they call it all sorts of different things. It's the same thing. So that's what would happen. And now we have a doctor in our town. But you see, about 25 years ago, the reason student loans went like this and just kind of slowly moved up, and then all of a sudden, about 10 years ago, they shot through the roof, it's very simple. It's because 25 years ago, the information was no longer private. It's available to everybody. And that's when the world changed. Instead of, oh, you're from that family. Oh, that's why you're rich. Oh, you're from this family. Oh, that's why you have money. Now, the playing field is level. So what did they do? They buried your search for whatever on page 17 of Google, and it's 3 million hits, and you can't find it. So access to the information? No longer. Knowledge is power? Nope, not anymore. Proper use of the proper information at the proper time. And that takes the institutions and releases them of power and makes you and I now responsible for our own wealth.
Right.
Because we all have our own. Wait, let me build a nuclear reactor. Hold on just a second. I can Google it.
You might get flagged, but yeah. You can.
Right? Or how do I say this in French? Instead of 4 years of French class, I can say it in the middle of Paris and go like this.
Yep.
And somebody else hears it. So what used to take a lot of time to get information. Now, do you still need a college degree? Of course. You want to be an English teacher? Yes. Engineer, please build my bridges safely.
Right.
Those things matter. But for the average everyday person, in my opinion, 30% of the universities and colleges in the United States should be gone. Period. Done, gone, bye. They're worthless. They're just machines that create money. They're work programs to allow professors with ascots and scarves from Louis Vuitton and wherever else they get them from, right? To go, oh, yes, oh, you're that person. Oh, yes, I'm this person. There's no value.
Yeah.
So I think there's a change that's coming, and the ability to be wealthy, believe it or not, it's a 10-year journey. That's it. Now, 10 years is a long time. If you're 20 years old, it's half your life. I get it. But when I saw that it was a 10-year journey, and I was probably about 30, 31 or 2, when I realized, wait a second, you mean I can do this? I delay gratification. You can't cut coupons below 0. So the poor mindset says, well, I'm just going to save. I'm just going to cut back. Stop Starbucks. I'm like, are you kidding me? The day I met somebody and she said, Arif, when I want a new couch, I just go make more money. And I go, but don't you have to ask somebody to make more money? Like, boss, can I have a pay raise? Or customer, can you buy more stuff? And she said, no. Like, how dumb are you? And that's when I realized, I'm like, wow, I don't even know the game I'm playing. You see, everybody's playing the game, but they don't know the rules. Imagine if you try to teach your kids basketball rules. There's a net, both sides, teams, round ball.
Got dribble.
You got to do it. And all those words and all that and it's happening. And every time your child gets on the field and he picks up the ball and within a second or two, oh, sorry, puts down the ball. Right? The ball would be money. Every time we try to achieve a goal, we're on one end or the other, put it down. After a while, your kid just looks like he's kind of pretending to play, like most people, right? They have the nice car. They're kind of pretending to play. They have the nice clothes. They're pretending to play. And they realize, wait a second. I got taught basketball rules in the game of soccer. You're not supposed to touch the ball. Nobody taught me that. Yeah, there's a net. It looks different, but it's still a net. So people are still learning the how to become wealthy kind of rules. A great example. You buy a house and you live in it. Are you kidding me? I've made that mistake, not once, but 3 times. Right? Oh, buy a house and you move into it. And then that's build your own equity, American dream. Hogwash. Yeah, it is the American dream, but it's your real estate agent's dream.
Yeah.
Right? You just made them money.
And the title company.
Oh, they were fine. Yeah. The loan officer, yes, you made my dream. I'll be thinking of you this summer in the Bahamas.
Send you a card.
Yeah. So we told our kids very simple rules. We said, look, here's the deal. You want to inherit money from me and mom that worked hard for it? You can, but you have to be eligible for it. They go, what do you mean, Dad? They know this from the time they were little. They always knew this. I would pay for 2 years of school. They'd have to go to 2 years community college, 2 years private school if they want or public. I don't care. Number 1. Number 2 is I'd give them a used car. They'd have a nice, but it's safe, but it's a used car. And number 3, and it's not always of their choosing, believe it or not. And number 3, we would help them buy their first rental property. They go, well, but what about a house to live in? I go, if you do that, you're done. You get nothing from me and mom because you're already starting off making bad financial decisions. What are you talking about? How am I supposed to live? You can live here. You can rent. Stay with us. Listen, and I've only been to Lebanon twice. And to see my dad's village where he grew up, where he played soccer as a little boy.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. Stories, that he told. This is where oh, wow, that's funny. But all throughout the villages, wherever you go, right? There's many, many villages. The second floor, third floor, whatever the last floor that they built, there's rebar sticking up. And the reason for that is simple. It's because when the oldest son gets married, who usually is the first to get married, he starts building his house on the top. And they just continue. And then when he's finished, there's rebar. And there's always an outside stair. And you just go up to whatever unit. And that's how you get the family. And you do that until you build your wealth. You got to get your job, son. You got to finish your education, whatever it was that they had to do. Maybe you'd have 1 or 2 kids by that time before you had a chance to move out. And then it would start all over again. So this occurs for lots of reasons because they understood the family was important. Now, family isn't always your blood. It can be, it should be. But sometimes you get stuck with the raw end of the deal, man. You have a wacky dad or a mom who decided to use drugs, or I saw somebody today, and dad decided to use meth. What do you mean, Dad? He was like 52 years old. Yeah, meth for the first time at 52.
Dang.
Wow, he was hurting. I mean, that's a bad move, but he did. So that leads to tough luck that you have a bad family. But if you go back and you decide who you're going to be friends and family with, and we told our kids, who you associate with is everything. Who you call friend. You see, those are a few things you can control. It used to be you lived here, you worked at that place. Factory farm, the mine, the oil well, whatever it is, that's where you worked. Now you can do anything. So your choices. And not only that, you can choose who you call family, right? I have a big family now. But not all of them I want to have the same, name, but we don't get to control that. So he said, okay, here's what I'll do. If you decide to buy a house to rent, then we'll help you. Then we'll help you financially with the second one. And then you get to go buy a house and live in. But guess who pays your mortgage payment? Not you.
Right.
Just like those people pay my car payment, those people pay your mortgage payment. Now, you provide an honorable place for people to live, clean, decent. Remember, your name goes with that. Right? People say, "Oh, I live in one of your houses," and they better be happy. So you have to treat it proper, but you better respect money as well coming in. That is how you build your wealth. That's one way, right? There's lots of ways. That's just one way. So it really changes.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things that you'd said. And before we got on, I said, I want you to kind of go with that thought because I want it on recording so I can refer back to it. Because I've tried to quote it and I'm like, well, he said this, and then it was school, and then it was, you have to pay the last degree you get. And I couldn't remember exactly what it was.
So part of that also is if you go on at whatever the last college degree that you get. So my daughter, for example, is a master's in biomedical sciences. Brilliant girl. Takes after my side of the family, really. But
of course. I don't know. I met your mom or your wife. She's pretty nice.
She is. And pretty. So she gets both from that side. So my daughter goes off and we said, all right, we'll pay for your undergrad. That's what we pay for. Oh, I want to get a master's. Okay, you go do that. Well, I want to get it in a different city. Okay. What's room and board? We saw the numbers. We looked at the real estate prices of the houses in that area. We said, we're just going to buy a house in that area. It's very simple, right? Rich people make the rules. So what are the rules? Now they're available to everybody. They're free. Just look on your phone. I mean, goodness. All right. So here's what the rules said. They said it's a 4-bedroom place. My daughter lives in one of the rooms. We rent out the other 3. She's my property manager because she is. She has to watch those people. Right? Collect the rent. Oh, there's a problem with the plumbing. I can't go out Saturday night because I got to wait for, okay, well, tough luck. It's called what you're doing. But then when she comes to visit back home, my employee is coming, or my employee is coming back home. But I can pay her $12,000 a year to be my employee. How much tax does she pay on that? Nothing. Remember, I don't make the rules. She pays nothing on it because it's below the tax bracket. So leaves my tax bracket, goes to her. Below the standard deduction, no income tax. She gets to use it to pay for college, no income tax. It counts as earned income because it is. So she can put a Roth IRA, which is no tax. It gets to grow, no tax. It gets to be pulled out, no tax. Now, here's the deal at the end. I said, you get a college degree, you finish, right? Because she took a little longer to get it, wasn't sure. She changed, master's programs halfway through. Okay, good. So it took a little longer to get it. So when you finish and you get that degree, you'll have a choice. Mom and I will pay for some or maybe all of it, depending on whatever loans you have left. Or you can have 25% ownership in the house. You decide. Before I could say that, she grew up in my house, so she knows the house.
Yeah.
Okay. It's probably worth more by the time she's done, right? Because we did this many years ago, and now she lived there, she worked, and then now she's married. She met somebody there and is married, stayed there. But they have a house now that's in another part of town. So that process of being able to, I'm still going to pay for her college, but now I can pay for it through that channel. And I put it on my taxes. I collect the rent. It goes on my taxes. Everything is up and up. None of the funny business some people try to do. You don't have to do that. Surprise, right? She's got a substantial Roth IRA and it's tax-free and it grows tax-free and will always be tax-free. Doesn't count against you on student loan applications, doesn't count against you. Very difficult to take it in lawsuits, right? Or defaults or whatever.
It's got layers of protection on it.
Yeah. So things like that are the rules that are just out there. And I had to learn. I'm like, man, I didn't want to teach my kids to sit there and go, Daddy can have another.
Yeah.
Right? I wanted my children to say, well, okay, this is interesting. How can I stand on your shoulders and take it to the next level? So what we did is I said early on to my wife, I said, we have to teach the kids to teach. We're not going to teach them to learn because any monkey can learn. I mean, you've seen it, right? Anybody can learn.
Yeah, you can teach all kinds of dumb animals to do tricks.
All day long, right? But teach to teach. That's very difficult. So that's what we do. And then we have family meetings and we say, okay, here's how this works. We do little real estate classes. We have little financial classes. Because it's the holidays coming up, they're going to be all gathered into one place. So I'm going to do a 4-hour class on here's how it works. We'll use a real life example. We'll show them all the benefits, the risks, the problems, because there can be problems, right? I love it when people say, oh, I tried real estate once. And this is not a real estate podcast because right now
Right.
I wouldn't buy any because the market tells you not to buy it. You just follow whatever the market does. The market says save money. So now why? Because interest rates are high. Just follow what banks tell you to do. Remember, these guys are the wealthy ones. I just get behind them and try to collect a few crumbs. So right now they say, oh, save money. We're giving you 4 or 5%. Okay, great. I'll take it. Thanks. Okay, now get over here. Okay, now buy real estate. Right? Last summer, money was free.
Yeah.
In summer of 2021, they were giving away money for free. So what did people say? Oh, I don't want it. You understand? You know, rental properties can get you. I'm like, are you nuts? A 30-year mortgage is the same first payment as the last payment. But I can promise you, if you rent your house out, the rental property out on day one, guess what happens to the mortgage payment over time? Surprise, it goes up. 2, 3, 5, 6% a year, depends. The spread, the delta, right, the difference, oh, that's called a profit. Imagine that.
Yeah.
So those are the ideas and the concepts, right? So right now it's kind of a holding pattern. You wait because builders will be losing their properties. And as they start losing their properties, you're the one with cash because remember, you were the saver that today's telling us to save a few months ago and today. So you wait. Maybe next summer. Now you have enough money. You come into Builder X. You come into Bank Y, who now owns the property. It's called a bank-owned property. Say, give me the property. They go, great. Well, you got cash. Quickly give it to us. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
They want to do that all day long. The concept of wealth is a moving target, but the responsibility never leaves you. That's the change. And teaching your kids to teach so that they learn, so that they know makes all the difference.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah, I wrote that down at the store too. Teach to teach.
Yes.
You do a scholarship that you kind of touched on. I want to kind of go more into that because I thought it's a different thought process of what a scholarship normally would be, and how you qualify for it. So I'll kind of let you take over how that started and then what it became after someone else came into it with you.
Yeah, we did a scholarship specifically on the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. And I did it because it was character-based. It mattered to me that character was more important. You see, nobody ever asked me, what did you get on your 11th grade history test? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Oh, did you take that class as an undergrad and get a 2.9 or 3 point?
No one asks.
Nobody asks. Nobody really even checks, but some big companies do. Okay, you put on your resume. Got it. Yeah, I worked at this job. I took this college class. I have this degree. Fine. But the moment you're hired for that reason, but that's it. It's over. Now, why are you fired? Why are you promoted? Why do you stay in that job? It's because of who you are. You see, poor people think the answer is to do. Do. Go get a degree. Get a job. Resume build. Go to the next job. Rich people think the wealthy, I need to be a better dad. I need to be a better boss. I need to be a better husband. I need to be a better Christian. I need to be a better citizen. I need to be a better listener. I need to be a better doer. You see, poor people just want to do because they can check a box. They get their wages. They get their pay raise. Their wealth, they think, is built off of their savings account or their 401k plan or whatever it is, but it's always built off of their wages. When you look, you get only about half. But your wealth, you realize I paid my daughter $12,000 tax-free. I don't know. Believe me? Oops. Don't believe me. Oh, okay. It didn't change the fact that that's what happens.
Yeah.
Because you can like it, you can not like it. You can hold a sign on, middle of the boulevard and be all pissed off. Okay, great. Thank you. And it still happens. So nobody cares what you believe because you're broke. You want to make a difference? Oh, you care about that? Oh, I know. Become wealthy.
Right. Wealthy make the rules.
Now you get to make the job. You get to make the rules. You get to go wherever you need to. So I had to learn to be better. I had to learn to follow the B's. Poor people still follow the do's. Even people that are high income earners still follow the do's. B's are sometimes out of necessity, right? My dad had to be creative when he was in Lebanon. He had to be a doer when it came to getting the visas and understanding, the operations of the embassy. He never knew that stuff.
Yeah.
He delivered produce in Los Angeles to the fast food restaurants. That was his job, and Chinese restaurants. He owned a business called Mike's Produce, but that was his job. He delivered produce. It was his business. My mom would take the orders. My dad would load up the truck at 2 a.m, and then he would start making the rounds by the time they opened up at 4 or 5 a.m, and provided an amazing living for our family, a couple of homes, and then the war happens. You see, you don't get to control those things. 2 weeks before the war in Ukraine, those are people that walked around with fur coats and BMWs and Mercedes, and they had their kids in jobs and school, and now they have nothing. Oh, that can't happen here. Really? Really? You think that? Okay. There's always somebody that's needed to be the dummy in the story. Maybe it's you that think that you don't have to prepare or be safe. I don't mean go crazy. I'm just thinking you've got to come to grips with the fact that there's been a reason that financially we have done all the wrong things. Like, why have we done 2 years of a checklist of 10 things to do wrong, and we've done all of them, right? Flood the system with money, make money worthless. Oh, stop the manufacturing in the United States of certain equipment by telling them they're not essential. Okay, go home. Vilify the other side so they don't bring in chips into the United States. Open the border so that fentanyl will poison every single human being that it touches. Flood the system with illegal aliens. Why? Because the middle-class Hispanics that used to be the poor are now middle class because they've been making it over the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years. They don't think the same way that the Democrats think anymore. So we got to import new thinkers. You need us. Get the welfare. Get the poor stuff.
Replace the votes.
You have to. That's like so logical and it's systematic. And, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. I'm not, because it's just called a viewer. Yeah. Just look at the news.
Just looking at data.
Those people come over. I have friends that work in all these agencies now, being a policeman and now, a financial professional all these years. I happen to know folks in different places. My classmates some of them are in high positions across the country and the state. So you still talk to them and you get to ideas and things that are happening. And it's shocking. So I think you have to understand the wealth principles because they apply everywhere, especially today, where the level playing field of internet access is everywhere. Information is everywhere. How do I run a balance sheet? What's a profit and loss? The moment somebody says, oh, my daughter and I are thinking about opening up a business, I go, great. What accounting classes have you taken? Well, nothing. You see, our scholarship was not built on your grades, but it was built on entrepreneurship. So if you're a 3.8 GPA or above, you did not get my scholarship. If you're 3.79 to 2.0, you got our scholarship. And it was character-based. You're going to show up on time? That's what your boss cares about. I care about whatever I can measure, right? I don't like tattoos. Today you can have them, I don't care. But if you're an 18-year-old and you're a 17-year-old, you're applying for it, it doesn't make sense to me. You just made a permanent decision, and I have shoes older than you.
Yeah, it doesn't have to do about the tattoo. It's the decision that you made.
Truly, right? Same thing with drinking, right? I never have been drunk in my life. You can do whatever you want to do. For me, it's not a thing. I don't like being out of control, probably. But I used to drink from the age of 14 to 17. So some people, right? I didn't after that. But the idea is when you're in my scholarship, my wife and I could do those things. Because I didn't say don't have a drink prior to that. I said, you're not supposed to drink now.
Yeah.
Because my scholarship begins now.
Right.
Right? You can't be pregnant or get somebody pregnant unless you're married first. You can't have a body piercing. These are all permanent things and decisions that you make that will forever define in your mind and in others who you are. So I wanted you to have an opportunity to understand that people are fired because they can't get along with their neighbors in their cubicle. They don't take direction. They don't show up on time. They don't work hard. They're not creative. Those things are why you're fired, not because what you got on your 11th grade history test.
Right.
So teachers, I love them. Educators, great. But they're still teaching you to be poor. That's great. We need poor people to work. Fine. You can say that.
The wheels
Yeah, the wheels in the cog. But those that listen to your podcast, they shouldn't be on purpose. You can be poor on purpose if you've got a lazy gene. Some people have it. to me, I enjoy watching TV, relaxing, tinkering in the backyard, playing with my dog. I love those things.
Going to graduations, yeah.
Truly. And then now it's work time, right? So when you have a switch, you can go on and off. And when you're on, you're on. And when you're off, you're off. That's really the skill set that I saw in very wealthy people. They could work when they're working and they're not. The poor guy that owns the plumbing company or the business who's always working, it's not that he or she is a bad person. It isn't. It's they don't understand how to hire people and surround themselves with people that are not exactly like them. You see, I spent the first decade as a boss trying to hire other me's, and nobody was like me. Nobody would work as hard. Nobody was focused on the B's. They were all doers. And I was trying to squeeze them into B. I had to learn how to find a good doer, honest, honorable, hardworking, who already gave up and said, this is what I want to do. I'm going to support that in you. So I can be the be and you be the do. So that I can now build a wealth and I will help you. I take care of my employees very well. People don't believe it. Very well. But I'm never worried about them opening a competitorship across the street from me. Never. But when I used to try to find people like me, right, you have to be a better boss. And I had to learn how to be a better boss, how to be a better listener, better manager, right? I had to be on time. I wasn't always on time. I'd show up, okay, we have, work starts at 9 o'clock, I'd show up at 9:05, 9:15. Well, that's not being a good example. So I had to go back and see what I was doing that was hindering my ability to become wealthy. And those were things that I had to do in my 20s, more importantly, actually, my early 30s. You see, most people do something, they get a check, they're transactional, and they run. And they cash it, and they spend it, and then they start all over again. Wealthy people don't think that way. And the poor person goes, because they have a lot of money. And the wealthy person says, I never thought that way. So there's always this communication gap between the wealthy and the poor and the rich, right, and the broke. You see, because if your decisions that you make are rich decisions, they will eventually lead you to wealthy, but you will probably be broke at least once. Death, divorce, loss of job, too early, right? The economy got you at the wrong time. The timing was wrong. Things happen. But your mindset was right. So eventually you will be wealthy. But if you have a poor mindset and then you have something happen, you win the lotto, get an inheritance, a pay raise, a tax refund, and you eventually pop into wealthy just for a minute, and then eventually you're broke again. How many people, I refinanced my house, how many times? 3 times I paid off all my debt. Okay, so you're a slow learner. Help me with understand, right? Because if you can screw up and make a mistake, I probably did it. So I have the right to kind of beat you up a little bit.
Sure.
I would say, okay, so what didn't change, right? Because debt is either a function of an event or a pattern of behavior. And I want debt. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, right? He heard about our scholarship fund. I follow him. So he says, hey, I want you to do an infomercial for me. I go, what does that mean? He goes, well, we're going to come to your house in January of 2001, and we're going to come and we're going to film this infomercial. Okay, great. Well, it runs on for 4 or 5 years all around the country. I think to 2005. Runs. I speak all these different languages, right? They dub it in. It was pretty cute. My wife and I were in Italy and we're watching. We're like, listen to me. Look, I'm speaking Italian. It's like, I'm like, she's like, that's sexy. She's like, it's not you.
It's not you.
I go, but it is. Look, it looks like me. Because, the typical dub, right? The person keeps moving their lips and the words have stopped. Yeah. So that was pretty funny. And through the scholarship fund, right, we would give $1,000 to a boy and a girl. And it was always this idea of saying, who is going to emulate the understanding of wealth? Who's going to emulate and repeat the ability to become wealthy so that they could teach wealth? I didn't want to give money to somebody and go, thank you, bye, I'm spending it. I go, no. So we would create opportunities for them to spend time with our family. I would mentor them. And I'd kind of start, my kids were babies. They were, 4, 5, 8 years old. So we'd say, okay, let's just kind of keep teaching the scholarship kids. So right now we have one that's a Top Gun instructor for the military, right? Fighter jets. Now he teaches whatever, 22 or 35 or one of those, the big jets. Another one that owns one of the largest companies of its kind. It's a company that does shows, basically like consumer shows, auto shows, those kind of things. Huge, all around the world. Another one that owns one of the largest private tutoring companies in the Southern California area.
That's cool.
So we have many people that have kind of emulated and repeated wealth. But the deal was they had to learn how to do good things with their money. And they always had to have a passion about something. It didn't have to be what I cared about, but they had to give it away somewhere. You see, because when you do that and you don't get anything for it, ooh, that's kind of a weird feeling. You see, I can buy this, spend money, get it. I get it. The money created something. But when you spend this and people go, thanks, and they drive away and you go in.
Yeah.
Nothing.
All right, universe, it's your turn.
Yes. And if you don't have the foundation that you're giving not to receive something in return. You see, most people, if you give, it always comes back to you. I'm polite. I'll nod and smile. But I never expected that. I didn't do that. I gave because I got it. So for me, the transaction's over. I mean, it'd be nice to get something in return, but it's not even a thought.
So that's not starting the transaction.
Zero.
That's already done.
It's done.
I like that.
Because for me, giving is about starting something new, but that direction, not a circle coming back to me or something, those are all whatever people want to think, but it's not the way my wife and I think. We think that this is a culmination and a respect to the effort that we've put in, to those that along the way that have helped us. And it's now the next journey, right? Some would say, pay it forward, or those are all nice things, but for us, it's a completion of something.
Sure. Yeah, I like that. That's the end of it. Like, yeah. I told you we're going to go through quick. We're already an hour in.
Perfect. I love
That's
it.
awesome. When you had talked to me about your kids, I thought, so I have a 2-year-old. I think I might've mentioned that to you. And I've talked about it on here a lot about my growing up and my father. And he was a good guy, coached all of our games, but like none of this stuff was taught to me. I have an older brother that kind of was starting to show me things and how to be smart with credit and how to do different things. And he now is part of a real estate here in St. George. And so he's got some rental properties and was showing me how to kind of do it. And, but what I'm getting to is when I talked to you, you said you need to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I was like, yeah, I read that like 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And I remember some of it, kind of went one in ear out the other. I know it wasn't like his dad. There was like a friend's dad, right? Like, so I kind of remembered some things about it. And then after we kind of got talking and you got more into it, it made me think like, and you had said it, you're like, well, this is where you are. Like, this is where you're at in life. And so I went back and I'm about halfway through, or just over halfway through, listening to it again this time. And it's funny how it didn't apply to me back then, and a lot of it was over my head. I had to go through different failures. I had to go through different learning experiences to even understand some of the language in it. You know what I mean? And some growth for sure. So what I want to kind of do, if we can, just back up a little bit. What do you tell someone that's 18, 19, 20, 21, what's something that they should be focusing on?
Always get your financial education from somebody who's made wealth already as part of their life. A good example. My kids were taking a business class from their professor. Well, before they did, I said, well, who's that professor? And I did some research on the professor to see if it was a real professor. And when my son, we homeschooled the kids, and so he was 14, 15 years old. He was at the community college taking classes. Nobody knew his age, although he was certainly short for his age. He didn't grow till a little bit later. And so here he is sitting in the class, and it was a 26-year-old professor at his community college that was teaching poli-sci. And the guy was so liberal with just liberal talking points that my son would text me questions or things that he said, and I would text him back rebuts. And we'd go, and my son would raise his hand and say, yes. oh yeah, but what about this? And professor's like,
Who is this guy?
who is this little kid in here, right? So that was the poli sci. So I told him, son, don't ever pay attention. The man has never had a job in his life. He's never employed anybody in his life. He's an employee of this state. Doesn't mean he's a bad guy. We need employees to run post offices and schools and roads and bridges. We need them. They're good people. You can still become wealthy by having a government job, by the way. It just takes longer.
Uh-huh.
But his opinion is his opinion, and it's not based on anything of fact. Now, fast forward, they took a business class right after he left the community college, went to his 4-year college to complete the last 2 years of his degree. And he was taking a business class. I said, well, let me have that person's name. Okay, I researched him. By that time, I had known a lot of people at the school and was pretty familiar. Okay, well, he owned a ranch up in, central part of the United States, up north. Lots of acres, working cattle ranch. He also owned a plane, and he would fly, do his classes, down here for 3 days and then go back. And so he had an understanding, right? Pilots are a different breed of people. That's you think being president of the United States or a governor or even a mayor of a town, that's a fairly narcissistic individual, period. Oh, but he's so arrogant. You have to be. You think you're going to be my president of the biggest country in the history of mankind? Of course you're arrogant. I check that box. Everybody is.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah, you're supposed to be. Well, you're supposed to be a jerk. Well, I don't want you to be my friend. Well, this guy is a pilot. And now I've flown myself a little bit. My father-in-law is a pilot. My dad was a pilot. So we happen to have a little bit of that in our blood, or a lot. So I know the kind of person that is. It's in control, right? You have to be in control. You have to be very knowledgeable, sober type of an individual. So I started talking to people that knew him, found out he ran another business that was very successful. And I said, all right, he's the person to teach, but I still want to see what he's teaching you. So my son lived in the dorms. Every once in a while, I check in with them. How's it going? After 3 or 4 times, I'm like, this guy's on track. So I'm okay with that kind of stuff. What I don't like are these academics that run through and say, I'm going to teach you, and you have a 4-year degree, and this person has never left the institution. Where I want you guys to get your business degree from, if you will, is understand books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I share those different books. Here's why. I didn't read How to Win Friends and Influence People because my personality says I don't want to how to win friends and manipulate people, how to be a manipulator of people to be your friend. That's what I heard every time I saw that title. So people would recommend it to me and I'd push it aside. So one day, whatever, the 20th time or something, I finally opened it up and I said, well, that's not what it's saying at all. It's saying how to be a better person so that you would attract better people. Oh, surprise, now you have more friends and now you can be better, more of an influence. And it goes back to what I said. You want to make a difference? Be wealthy. I didn't make the rules that money gets to control things. Not everything. You should still be you should absolutely have faith. I think, in my opinion, Christ is the center of our life, but it doesn't have to be yours, it's mine. So that's my first. My country is my second. My family is my third. And then money. Oh, but Arif, money. Money is the root of all evil. Really? So why didn't you take your vacation in the Bahamas instead of down the street at the Motel 6? Oh, and then you flew coach red eye because it was cheaper. Whereas I flew middle of the day business class because why? Oh, so money can buy some things. Right? I just think it's very hypocritical. I don't think money is everything. It isn't everything. And I get it. But the reason that you work a second job is for what? For extra pizza?
Right.
Or for money? So just understand what it is, use it for what it is, and never be obsessed with money. Be obsessed with wealth. It's different. Money is a part of wealth. It is not wealth. Wealth is a whole host of other things, maybe another show.
Yeah.
And when you learn, and it's, the health of your family. Okay, yeah, that's part of it. But wealth is about all sorts of things, influence and on and on.
That's great. That's awesome. I knew we were going to have a bunch of clips. So Mallory will go through, post clips on social media and stuff from the podcast. And I'm thinking, I don't even know where you clip it. Like there's just so many things. So she's going to have her work cut out for sure. Is there anything else you kind of want to run through? And we can I would love to have you on for another show if you're up for that.
Sure, anytime. Okay. I love it.
Maybe we can kind of pull one topic and just dive into that.
So many times there'll be people in your life that'll make a difference for different things, right? The one that encouraged you to keep moving on, the one that said you're actually going to be a good musician and surprise you are. There's always those people in your life that are going to be that. Everybody has them. Sometimes they're the ones that said you couldn't do it. And so because of that person, you did it times 10. Those are big deals. But where it really changed for me was the time when I understood that you have to make a decision because nobody will take care of you. Nobody. Your mom and dad love you, but I'm a financial guy. They come into my office. I say, oh, okay, great. Hi, Mary. Hi, Joe. How are you? Good. How many children do you guys have? 3. Great. Are they good kids? And they pause. Well, 2 of them are. One of them we have a challenge with. Okay. So I want you guys to know your parents talk about you. Good, bad, ugly. You're a greedy son of a gun. Your wife, your husband is a jerk. They know that. And they talk about you. And so I never wanted my parents to say bad things about me. I wanted to impress them. That's why I never did drugs. That's why I never got into trouble, because I didn't want to disappoint my mom and dad, right? The last thing I ever wanted to do, oh, yeah, that sounds fun. Oh, that looks good. Oh, but what are they going to think of me, right? So they already think of you. If you're a lazy son of a gun, then maybe you can change that. And the people that matter, don't care about the other people, but the people that matter, your mom, dad, sister, brother, cousin, the ones you said you would die for and do anything for, got it. Those are the people that you ask them. Hey, can you do me a favor? Write down 5 things that you think I can do better. And you go to each person in your life and they go, well, what do you mean? Well, 5 things that I can do better. And they will say, oh, great. Show up on time. Stop being a jerk to your sister. Da, da, da. Okay, great. Sometimes they're not going to do it, but maybe they will. And you have to tell them you're serious about it. You're not going to hold it against them. Maybe what you do is you get 10 people and you have everybody put it, and then you have one person put it in a written, so you can't read their handwriting, and it's printed out on a sheet, and here are the things that we think you can do better. And then what you do is you say, okay, I'm going to set it aside. And then I'm going to fix or try to work on 1 per week. Maybe you don't get it done this week. Maybe you tried your best and you couldn't do it. Okay, great. Next. And you come back to it. You don't cross it off. You put a check mark, whatever it is. And then what you do to those same people. What can I be to be a better person? I want to be a better person. Tell me, what can I be? Now they're first going to look at you and go, well, we just did that. I go, no, that was the do's. And you can get a list of things and let them be creative, and they start going down a list. Stop being stubborn. Stop interrupting, right? Stop being somebody who is arrogant. Those kinds of things behind your back, the people that you think love you, they do love you, but they don't always like you. And they say those things about you when you're not there. And so when people would come around and they would say, I'm looking for a plumber, nobody refers you. Surprise. Why? Because you don't show up on time. Or because you're not clean, right? You come over and you leave a mess. I had somebody do some work in my house recently, and the person didn't do a good job. I felt bad, right? I still paid them, but I'll never call them again. And I'm somebody who sometimes has a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I just say, you're a good man, right? Good luck. See you later, right? I don't want to be a jerk to him, right? Because the old Arif, I would have said something. And I would have made him feel like this. And I would have thought I felt like that.
Right.
And then at the end, he's still not going to do work for me. And at the end, he still feels like that. And I think I feel like that. But really, what did I achieve? I just made myself look stupid. Right. So I wanted to just be a better person around those things. So that's one of the areas that we work on. And this is very important. Be deliberate about how you teach your children different lessons. That's very important. My wife would drive through, or we'd drive through the drive-through food thing and getting food for the kids, right? And they gave us $1 more in change. What did we do? Well, you pull through, you get through, but now, oh shoot, it's behind you. So we would pull into the parking lot. One of us would take one of the kids in, and we'd Even if we're down the street, oh, crud, we got to turn back. Yeah, we got to turn back. Pull in, we pull in the parking lot. One of us takes one of the kids. Hi there, can I speak to her? Oh, no, I'm the manager. What's wrong? Oh, nothing. We were just in the drive-thru. I just want to quickly talk to her. Because if I give it to the manager, what does that do? Gets her in trouble. But if I can go to her and say, hey, how are you? And the manager's looking, is there a problem? I go, smiling. Hey, I want to thank you guys. You did a great job. The food was perfect. Slide that $1 bill. You paid me a little bit more in change than you should have. Just want to make sure that your drawer balances tonight. See you later. Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, thanks so much. Right? Now nobody gets in trouble because she didn't do it on purpose. My kids can see a level of forgiveness, a level of mercy, a level of understanding that there's more to life than just $1, right? What do most people, oh, I got $1.
Right.
I took her for $1. She loses her job, you got $1, right? I made him look small, oh, I look big. What's permanent, what's temporary? So those are deliberate lessons. So we would take our kids, we're going to go look at some real estate. You get the clipboard. Sometimes the little work belt with the measuring tape was so heavy on them. You'd take it out. I'm going to hold the end. Okay, you hold the end, measure it. What does that say? Okay, write that down. Got it? Yep. Okay, come over here. All right, get it. Okay, now it's a 3-2. What does that mean? I don't know. What does that mean? 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Got it. 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Deliberate. Right? That's a great way to begin towards wealth building. And you have to be consistent.
There's one more thing I did write down when we were talking. You said you homeschooled your kids. Why?
For 2 reasons. One,
sorry, I kind of set you up and then got you a drink.
Yeah. So remember, so I lost everything, if you will, or most of everything financially. And then I built back our company, or financial services. I started it, built it up, and then we were able to retire at a young age. So pull the kids out of school, travel the world, a lot of places. My kids have been to many countries, continents. But I wasn't making a difference anymore. Now, I was in their lives. But I remember one specific day. My kids were home. We had a good time. I would go speak at different conferences and different places, and my kids would come. But the teacher wouldn't allow us to go one time. Well, but he's going to miss too much work. I'm like, are you kidding me? He's going to miss too much work. So I said, it doesn't matter. We're going to take him out. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to volunteer since I'm kind of semi-retired. I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to be the Tuesday math dad, which is what I was. And then I was the field trip dad because I could do that.
Yeah.
And of course, all the ladies on the field trip and then me. So I'm there eating my sandwich and all the ladies are talking about lady stuff and I'm over here. So, but it's fun. We sit in there. I'm the math dad. But then I started noticing. I'm like, wait a second, this is 2nd grade. And I'm here for 1 hour and 45 minutes. And the kids do about 15 minutes of work. Because my kids, we taught them at home anyway. They learned to read at a young age. They learn math. We play games. So they were done. What do I do? Go play with the blocks. Go color. And I thought, you're kidding me. This is what they do? Stand up in line. Okay, nope, get back. Okay, stand back up. And my kid would stand up in line and keep his hands to himself like he's supposed to. Everybody, sit back down, stand back up. Okay, nope, Jimmy, stop. Susie, put that back. I thought, you got to be kidding. This is what they do. And then the day they sent him home with homework. You see, bottom line, 0. I don't care if you're freaking in 12th grade. 0 should you ever have homework. Never. Because they steal from the family and give to the school. No. Where you been for 8 hours? Learning how to stand in line and play with blocks? Your job is, surprise, to teach. You leave the social stuff out, that's my job. You leave the sex stuff out, my job. You leave my job. Well, what am I supposed to do my job? So if I come home at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, they have 2 hours worth of homework, and then they go to bed, and I'm like, whoa. I'm the dad. I didn't just birth them to keep you employed. So I said, we're done with this baloney. And it took a bit. It took me about a year to convince my wife. Because, when I say homeschooled, I'm the principal. She was the teacher. I was like, yeah, don't do that. Okay, leave me alone. Watch out, TV.
Okay, Mom.
Yeah.
Well,
so it was tough.
I've had that conversation with a lot of people, and including my wife. So again, he's only 2, so we got a few years to figure it out. But I've just looked at the system I went through and how the public school system is now. And in Southern Utah, I don't think it's as bad as it is a lot of places. So people are probably like, yeah, you got it pretty easy.
I just
in
found
Utah.
out Southern Utah has something called furries. You know what that is?
I've heard of it.
Yeah. A school, I won't say the name, I did on my radio show. So tough cookies to them and the teacher for that matter, because it's the way it goes.
Yeah.
It was on the LA radio, but furries, kids that think they are dogs and cats, and they put freaking litter boxes in the bathroom right here.
So this is actually happening here.
Right here,
because we had
right
this
now.
conversation the other day, and they were like, "Well, I don't know if it's going on. I heard it was talked about."
No, happened.
Yeah. See,
And I would never. You're talking about You're talking about a bad day with Arif in the school. That would not happen. I'm like, so where did you lose your mind? Was it your master's degree or bachelor's? Like, where did that happen that you call this normal? I got to participate in your little psychological fantasies. Forget you.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So I've had the talk. I've even been like, why are we not just putting a public school together, or not a private school together of us friends that our kids go to, that maybe one of our friends is a teacher now and leaves the school district and comes and works for us, and we just pay his salary.
It's exactly what we did in our homeschooling. We didn't homeschool in the traditional sense where everything was done at the kitchen table. We had a lady who was a teacher at NASA. Was a scientist at NASA, and she quit to raise her kids, and so she turned her one car of her 3-car garage into a lab. And so she had a full lab system and taught kids basically the old schoolhouse all day. I think it was Monday, if I remember right, but it was 2 hours or 3 hours that they would be in science class. And then the rest of the week was doing work based on that. And so she turned her whole garage into a lab, and they did different experiments. The difference was, start to finish, all school was done in 3 or 4 hours. So my 2 older kids at their 12th year of age, when they were studying the Great Wall of China, guess where we went? China.
Yeah.
Daddy, what about that? Yep. My daughter's doing, snow angels on the Great Wall of China. How could you do that? Surprise, we were learning about Costa Rican forests. Guess where our kids went? Right? So we wanted them to be able to do things like that, where they could go to the desert to talk about the desert. They could go educate there. So their whole childhood, if you will, put them in like a lifelong area of field trips where they had to do papers, they had to do research, they had to do things. Today I don't even know where they learned to type, believe it or not. One day I saw my daughter talking to me and typing, and I said, when did you learn to type?
Yeah.
And she said, well, I don't know. I took an online typing class. Mom gave it to me at, something. And my wife says, yeah, but it was only about a week.
The information's out there.
And now she's typing like this, talking and nodding. I'm like, wow, is it stuff making sense?
Yeah.
So
see, I'd be highlighting and deleting it if I did that.
I'm this.
Yeah, I'm hunting peck here.
My junior high, where they gave us, they said, it's seventh or eighth grade, and you get 4 classes that you get to take, so half of a semester each. And they gave us a big bucket of classes to search from, and I chose print shop, where you did the typesetting. Yeah, it goes nowhere today. Now there's something called a printer. The second one I did, it was amazing. It was called cooking. It's where all the girls were. I did that.
There you go.
So I'm thinking ahead. I was a young kid. And then I did sewing. Still very useful. I sew buttons on, sew stuff today. And then the fourth one was something called drafting. I don't know if you know that's pretty useless today also.
What's drafting?
Yeah, where you draw, lines, and we were drawing buildings,
like house plans,
like architecture.
Like that. Okay.
Yeah. So just basically drafting, lines but today, you do it all on the computer.
Right.
So everything, now they had typing. Yeah, I didn't take type. I'm like, I would hire a secretary to type. I'm never going to have a typewriter. Yeah. So don't trust my advice on the coming technology. I seem to keep getting it wrong no matter where I go.
Yeah. Funny story. So we had connected a little bit on scouting too. We had talked a little bit about that. So my oldest brother was getting his Eagle Scout, and the project that they kind of put together was keyboard covers. And so they built these little things out of wood that covered your hands so you couldn't look down at the keys. And I remember then a couple years later, I got into school and we used those covers. I was so mad. I was like, man, I helped build these things. Yeah, I remember thinking about that. And to this day, I still don't know how to type, but I remember struggling through that class and figuring it out.
To the people will say when homeschooling, oh, but they don't get socialization.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, I was one of those guys, right? That's what I thought. Oh, socialization. Okay, so my 2 boys are Eagle Scouts. They were all in swim team. They sang at choir at church. My daughter was one of the only girls, I think the only girl at the time, to play boys baseball because my oldest son played baseball. And she said, I want to play. We go, great, softball's over there. Let's go sign. She goes, no. I want to play baseball. Like, yeah, but the ball's fat. So she was an average hitter, maybe so, but the number 1 base stealer. So she got known. So the team really came around her, right? When you're good at something and everybody recognizes it, you try to do better at it. So that was a big deal. So we had all the team sports, socialization, swim team, on and on, swim lessons and all the crazy stuff you would do 1 or 2 days a week. But when Dad was working, right? Because by the time we were accelerating our homeschool, I went back to build my company. Because my son one day came home and said, Dad, where does Mr. Pat? Pat was our neighbor. He had to call the kids Mr. first name because the last names were sometimes hard. Where does Mr. Pat go all day? I go, well, Dad, but Mr. Pat has a job, sweetie. He goes, oh, Daddy, what's a job? And I was like, oh. Now, I didn't have enough money to ever create a trust fund for these kids, but just to spend basically the rest of my life. And I thought, my kids aren't going to know what a job is. I'm not teaching to teach because I'm going to give them nothing at the end of the story. So I said, I got to build a company. I got to have them see me create something, have them see me create wealth. And that's kind of when that journey really began to take off so that they could see something from beginning, middle, and end and then reap the rewards, right? So now we get to do things where their benefits, they see the reward. The biggest mistake parents make, Dad's working all day long. I'll give you a good example. I wear a suit and tie at work. I come home, I leave the office. I do what most guys do. Take my tie, adjust it, take a deep breath, drive. I pull in the driveway, my tie goes back on. And I tuck my shirt back in, if it's out a little bit, make sure I'm nice and neat, and I walk in the house. Why? Because you see, I left that way. Why would I not return that way? Because you see, if I leave that way and the kids see Dad get his butt kicked and then come home and you go, oh, I can't wait to do that one for the rest of my life.
Oh, that sucked.
Yeah,
Today was awful.
Oh, it was horrible. Oh, these people stunk. Oh, do you want to do what I do, son? What do you mean no? Oh, you want a job? But you don't want a job. Why? Well, because Dad, you hate your job and you talk about everybody there and it kicks your butt when you come home. Why do I want to get my butt kicked all day long? Forget it. I'll go blog. I'll do something with my friends. So the example that you leave for your children is beginning, middle, and end. It's to the day you pass, not to the day they move out. And it's not just to the day they turn 15 and not just to the day they're married. It's forever. And so that is the example I got from my dad, right? He's still a man of character and integrity and hard work and discipline, and he's a giving guy. And those things that I see my mom doing, and they don't ever end. Right? So and we're done. We paid off the house. We saved up money. Your kids are all safe and married with children and we're done. No, you're not. I still call up my dad. Dad, what do you think about this? And I don't ask him, Dad, should I buy this building or this building? I don't, because that's not his skill set. He will be kind and he'll try, but it's not his heart. That's not where he is. He can't be great at everything. Most people want to be good at everything. I never wanted to be good at everything. I know a lot about a lot of things, and I am good at a lot of things. But I wanted to be great at 1 or 2 things. You see, the wealthy are great at 1 or 2 things. The poor are good at a lot of things. They're the person that fixed their own toilet, that fixed their own, backyard swings. They're the ones that do all fix. Great. That's wonderful. I'm not going to pay somebody $200. It only takes 15 minutes. Okay, great. I'm not going to pay somebody $500. It takes me half of a Saturday. I can. Okay, great. I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to spend that time. I'm going to buy time to be with my wife. I'm going to buy time to play with my children. I'm going to work and make a lot of money so that when I don't work, I can use that money to take my kids on a European trip so that they can get a chance to study abroad or whatever they're going to do. Right? So those things my kids get to benefit from, but they are under no illusion that it is theirs. because I told them very clearly. They know it. They will know it again in the holidays when we have another little meeting. And it's this: because you are my child, you are where you are. You don't have to say thank you. You are here. But you don't deserve anything else because you didn't do anything. Deserve means do, right? It doesn't work. Manage your own money well, kids. Oof. You manage your own money well. You work hard because you're emotionally connected to your own money, and you manage that, and you do well, and you take chances. You make mistakes. You step forward, back 3 times. Then you are worthy of my money, which you have no emotional connection to because you didn't earn it. You didn't give up anything for it. You just are
born into it.
Yeah. So if you win your own game, then you can participate in mine. But if you can't, it's okay. Then it will go to those 2, or just this one.
Yeah.
Or a charity.
Or maybe a guy you met on a podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Me and Mom are not working for you kids.
Yeah.
You guys got your used car. You got your help with your first rental property, and you have 2 years of your college paid. Other than that, man, good luck in life.
Yeah.
Now, Dad, I'm hungry. Come over, right? I need my laundry anytime. But, can I have that house when you die? I don't know. We'll have to see. Right now, probably not. So you better hope I live longer until the answer is
get
yes.
some more chances.
Keep working.
I'm glad that we ran into each other.
Yeah, me too.
I'm kind of like, how do I get around you more is what I'm sitting here thinking.
Yeah, thanks.
So if people do want to get out and listen to more of your stuff, how do they find you? Just Google your name? How does that work?
Yeah, you can go to TFS Wealth. It stands for Total Financial Solutions. TF as in Frank, so Tom, Frank, Sam, the police in me. Different than military terms, but TFS, Tom, Frank, Sam, Wealth, as in a lot of money, tfswealth.com.
Okay. And then I know there's your radio shows and stuff out there. Is that connected to that? Or?
Yeah, it is. In fact, by the end of the year, by January, we'll have all of our podcasts uploaded. I think we're only going to get around probably half of them or something, but we'll get most of them.
Though.
Yeah.
So you can get on that. You can listen to it. I'm sitting there thinking just that last little bit when you were talking, I can just see people being like, well, that's great that you can take your kids to China, And so to those people that are going to say that or have that mindset, I want you to rewind, go back to being the bees, try to be the bees. You got to understand, this is a guy that was a police officer, 11 years, bad accident, could have quit, could have called it quits. And you were very intentional on doing certain things, not letting your kids see you certain ways, how to build wealth. I mean, how to teach your kids those lessons. And you're what? You're saying in your 30s, so you were another 10, 11, 12, 15 years before you could do any of those things.
That's right. Yeah, it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, so there's a lot of duration of time in this story.
For sure. There's a duration of time. There's 2 times where over probably 6 years, 7 years, where I just, and my wife didn't even know about this until just recently, where I closed my little walk-in closet and just cried on the floor. Why can't I do this? Why is it everybody else that I'm around and I teach other people, I help, why is it that they're all wealthy and they're doing well and they're succeeding? What am I missing? I just asked God, what do I have to do differently? And I could never get that answer until the day came when I said, what do I have to be successful? And it dawned on me. And that's when it changed.
Yeah. I mean, we've brought a lot of people on here that have made a lot of money. And I know the backstory, but we never talk about it.
Yeah.
We're always talking about like, oh, we went through this. And now we're making money, we're wealthy, we're whatever the word is. And in my mind, after I listened to the podcast later, I think, man, we kind of missed an opportunity there. We could have talked about there is struggle. Everyone's going through struggle.
Oh my gosh. The struggle that you receive in the journey, people say, well, it helps make it more appreciative later. That's if you're guaranteed the end result, right? When you're watching a 4-quarter football game and they're struggling in the first quarter, but it was yesterday's game and you know how it's going to end, you're not as emotionally connected to the fumble or the interception. Like, oh, no big deal. I know how it's going to end. But that's not how our lives are. Our lives are it's going still forward. We don't know how it's going to end. What if it's all wrong? What if we went down the wrong path? So there is supposed to be a little bit of trepidation and fear, right? Even today, every financially successful person I know is afraid. Everyone. They're afraid of competitors coming down the road. They're afraid of government regulation is going to take it away. They're afraid the wrong person's going to be president or senator or governor. They're afraid about a lot of things, but we don't live in that fear because I know that I know how to. I have a whole kitchen full of material that I can turn around and make a new recipe because it's me that's the product. Right? Remember, it's going to the restroom, it's drinking water, it's eating food, it's breathing air and touching money. That was the analysis I did. I go, people do those things every day. Every single person, rich, poor, ugly, fat, skinny, tall, doesn't matter. Everybody's doing these things every day. So which one do I want to be good at? I didn't know how to cook. I mean, I can make things, but I tried water distribution. I owned a company that had water, juices, teas for a little while. I wasn't good at that. I didn't understand the beverage business. Boy, was that a crazy business. So I'm like, I got to figure this out. So that's why. I was great at math, always have been. I understand numbers, right? I mean, I can build things three-dimensionally in my mind number-wise, so I can do that. I can see things. So that's my strength. Somebody else may have a different strength. You might say, but I can motivate a team of people. I'm a great leader. Fantastic. I think every successful person has gone through at least one multi-level marketing company. You have to.
Yeah.
And that's where you mess up. That's why the Mormon church, the LDS church is very good at having its young people go out on missions because you understand that a no is not fatal. You understand a door being slammed in your face is not a personal attack on 6 generations of your. No, nobody cares about you. Right? You start to realize you're not as important as you thought you were. Whereas when you coddle young people, they think they're so important. So when somebody says no, you crush them. That wasn't me. I was a cop, man. You know how many people made fun of me, said they did this with my wife
in L.A.
Yeah, right. My wife, my mom, what they're going to do to me. The guys that were whose arms were bigger than my legs. You know, you had to have conversations with them quietly in their ear. That if they didn't come along quietly, you know, I'm not going to fight you. The only thing I can do is shoot you. Right? You're going to kick my butt. So I have to either shoot you in the knee. And you want to walk with the limp the rest of your life. Most likely, I'll shoot you in the head. And your family can, I mean, I don't know, you had to convince people, please come along nicely. I tried that once. Sir, please put your hands up your, shoot.
Well, now what?
I live in my parents' garage, sir. Please be kind and polite and don't use bad words.
Don't say no, please.
Yeah. I mean, once you realize life is more about the failures and the successes needing each other to succeed, it's never about, well, it's easy for you. Oh, yeah? I spent $1,200 for a ticket to my son and myself to go to China, $1,200 and $1,200, at a time when it was $4,000. Why? Because there's something called the internet, and you can find tours, and you can get involved, and you just learn, right? You don't have to, you just have to understand who owns you, right? People think, oh, slavery's dead. Oh, okay, well, maybe it is or isn't, right? If I can buy you with benefits package, right? Oh, no. It's vacation pay. That's my health insurance and vacation pay. Really? That's how cheap you are. Well, you need to pay me an hourly wage. It's easy. If you don't work, you're fired. So you have to make more than what I have to pay you. But that means you made more than what I paid you. You got less, you made more. So you make the rules, not me. You decide what you're going to sell yourself for. So I think people don't realize that the power still is within them now more than ever. Now more than ever. You can become so successful so quick that if you didn't go through the problems early on, then you don't have an appreciation, which is why most rich people, wealthy people, millionaires, even billionaires, but certainly millionaires, go like this. Financially, bankrupt once or twice, failures once or twice, businesses fail once or twice before you ever succeed because you never understood how to manage it. So you failed. Of course you're going to fail. Everybody fails. We know it. I can sit there now with my friends. We sit back and we go, guy's doing great. Think he'll fail in 2 years or 3? He'll lose everything in 3. You're on, right? We know it. Not because he's a bad person, but because he thinks he did something for the business to be successful. But sometimes we're accidentally rich, right? We're broke. We're poor in our mind. We make money because of timing, because you happen to have the right product, because of an inheritance, whatever it is. but we know you didn't suffer. So it's a temporary condition. You'll eventually be broke again. You have to build up the habit. So I have about 60, I think is what I've built, 60 things to do and be, right, on the wealth side. The more you move up your habits up to the rich side, the greater chance you have of retaining your wealth and your income for most people. Knowing you're never going to be 100% rich the way you think. We're all going to still do dumb things, but with money and
sure.
But it's doing more of the rich and less of the poor.
Yeah, moving that needle. Yeah.
Truly. And that's what happens. So at the beginning, you're kind of usually 50-50. That's your first success. And then this comes and bites you in the fanny because you forget, right? And then you have to just keep moving it past that. Then we go, oh, that person seems to know what they're doing, right? Usually poor people, believe it or not, and broke people are stingy and greedy. It's the rich that are generous. It's the rich. Now, people, oh yeah, right.
It's easy for you to say.
Easy for you to say. I'll tell you what. Put $100 bill on the table, and who do you think covets it more? The rich person or the poor person? You see, the rich person says, "What can I do with that $100?" The poor person says, "What can I buy with that $100?" You see, rich people use money. Poor people have money use them. That's a difference. So you have to be more of the rich guy, even though you still want to, oh, but that's a $100 bill. Even though you still feel it, you got to fight it, you got to fix it. Then the day comes when you go, what can I do with that $100 bill? What can I do with that fourplex? What can I do with that single family home? What can I do with that business that needs a little bit of help, but I can come in and give some guidance? What can I do with, right? And then all of a sudden, being generous comes to the forefront instead of being stingy. What can that business do for me? What can that fourplex do for me? Right? I ask how I can serve my tenants every day. These are people that live in our rental properties. How do I serve them? People say, well, Arif, if you get your nails done, you're not digging anything in the hole. Well, sometimes I do. Sometimes I'm fixing stuff. I'm putting letters, the correct numbers on the wall because the mailman can't see it. The tree gets in the way, so I got to move stuff around. All right. I like that because it's still a place of service, right? I could buy this place 5 times over, but I do it because it is a B for me, right? Being humble, being generous with my time. Sometimes just being quiet, being a good listener and seeing what other people go through so that you can be thankful. So just some ideas.
That's awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. That's episode 72. Great episode. Like it, share it. We're going to have tons of clips from this one, and we'll definitely have Arif back on. So if you have anything that you want to dive into or topics, even throw it at us. We'll keep a list of those and we'll kind of dive back in when we bring you back. So appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
That's it, guys. That's Derick Lake Podcast. We'll see you next week.